So, G, you work with obviously a badass. I work with a badass, which is pretty cool. What's been your perspective of the last 48 to 72 hours, everything surrounding Biz?
He's an animal. He's an animal in every aspect of the word. He's a great guy. I think that's really what it comes down to. Like when you listen to the full story on the show, you hear that, Biz was standing up for someone who's smaller than him. And anyone who knows Biz knows that that's a regular occurrence. Like not that he takes on goes 7v1 in a restaurant, but Biz is always one that's always been, he'll stand up for the smaller guy. He'll speak for the people who can't speak for themselves. And I think the more that comes out about these guys, I don't know if you're seeing all this stuff online, but supposedly they're like these Irish travelers, these inbred weirdos who just like rip everyone off on paving companies. This is all alleged. I don't know if that's true, but there's some crazy stuff coming out about these guys. So good riddance for Biz. Very glad he's okay. I think that's the main thing. Very glad he's okay, and proud to call him my friend. I think that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, by the sounds of things, that could have gone the other way in a hurry, and luckily it was Biz, or someone would have been like seriously hurt. Those guys didn't seem to have any off switch from what it sounds like. What was there anything? I guess everything was kind of ducks in a row as far as the police and stuff. But as soon as Biz was out there talking about like chucking and putting the arm, and I was just like, yeah, don't get yourself into a legal problem. But it sounds like by all accounts it went exactly the way that Biz said it did. All the spectators and people who witnessed it, and these guys are just like, can you imagine them coming home from this golf trip with the backlash and the blowback that's happening right now, what their wives and stuff must be thinking? The last people in the world I'd want to be today is those pricks.
Yeah, and it's the amount of people that have reached out to and that have said, like, just going through the DMs, they're like, yeah, Biz, like I saw what happened. It went down exactly as you said. And I'm sure the security footage is going to come out in the next few days. So I think everyone's going to be able to see it. I can't wait to see Biz buckling that one guy. So yeah, I'm so proud of him, man. Like it's funny too, because I woke up in the morning and I rolled over, looked at my phone, and Biz sent me a picture, and it was the side of his head because something happened to his ear. And like the next text was, I'm gonna kill these guys. So I like roll over and look at it, and I say to my fiance, I'm like, oh, Biz got a bad haircut. He's pissed. Because all he sent me was like the fade on his head. So I'm like, and he doesn't have a great fade right now. So I was like, oh, Biz got a bad haircut. And then I woke up and looked at it. I'm like, oh shit, Biz got jumped. A little different than a bad haircut.
Hey, Rosie, what was it feel like to take a Biz punch? You felt it, right?
Yeah, a couple times.
You guys have had some good scraps.
Yeah, like I actually didn't like scrapping him because our styles were so different, but he was strong. We do the big long string out, and no, by all accounts, knew what he was doing. But I just feel for him being in that position. Like it's been a long time since I was ever in like a bar fight or some like position where you're not comfortable at all. But I've never been jumped by 6 guys, and by all accounts, it's a lot different. Like you're kind of in a, it's not a safe zone being in a hockey fight. There's bare knuckle punches, but you kind of know what to expect, and there's
no
some
one's
boundaries.
kicking you while you're down.
Like you're out there 6-on-1. Like we're talking, man, this could screw you up for life. These guys start stalling. They don't seem to have any accountability for anyone else around them. They seem to be completely unhinged. Who knows what they're on from what they've already seen. And now it's in the parking lot and there's no one around, and Biz to be on the ground. I can imagine that was bloody terrifying. And for a guy like that, you just got to flip your switch, black out, and just give everything you got and fight for your life. And I can't imagine that's not what he was doing. And luckily he's Biz, and he was able to probably come out ahead, which is fucking insane when you think about it.
Yeah. And I mean, he said it. It was took some, gave more. Like, what a great line. Like, because you see the picture of the mugshots of the guys, and they don't look great either. I mean, Biz has that one little scratch on his face, but I think he got his licks in as well.
Yeah, definitely did. And I knew a T-shirt was coming in like 4 hours, and it certainly was released.
He didn't want to put it out. We had to like force him to, but
very humble dude. So Canadian. Early returns on Joe Sacco and Boston, G.
I'd say good so far. I like what I've seen from them. It seems like they're going back to Boston Bruins hockey, which is defense first. And I mean, you've seen that the past 2 games. 3 games now, 2-1, but they're still struggling to produce offense. And I don't necessarily know if that's something that Joe Sacco can fix himself. I think that's something that Don Sweeney has to address. I think he's maybe has to go out and either bring someone in, or we look back to Providence where it's Matt Poitras, Fabian Lysell, Georgi Merkulov. There's offense down in Providence right now, but Boston clearly doesn't see them as the answer right now. So I've been pretty pleased with Sacco, Boston guy, Medford's finest, North Shore guy. So I love that. It sucks to see Monty go. I think that really sucks. I think Monty's an incredible coach. I do think it had to happen though. I mean, you've seen they look like a different team the past 3 games, which is the coach's bump. You know what I mean? Like it does make a difference, even though it wasn't Monty's fault. Like these guys are obviously going to play a little harder. Jay, you know what it's like, when a new coach comes in the locker room, you want to get on his good side. You're going to be blocking those shots. You're going to play a little extra hard. So it's, I'm happy with what I've seen so far, but I think offense is still the elephant in the room. They got to find a way to create, but Brad Marchand struggling, David Pastrnak struggling. So once those guys get going, I think everything will kind of even out.
Did anyone see this coming preseason? Like Boston's just been like top notch for so long, and you almost take it for granted. Did anyone like stop and like analyze like if this happens, like we could be in trouble, or was it just business as usual? This came out of nowhere. Or people have been talking about their roster for a little while now.
Well, I think the Monty thing, I think the Bruins thought it could happen because from everything I had been told this summer is Sacco was told like, hey, if things go awry to start the season, like you're our guy. And a lot of people say that if Monty lost that game 7 to the Leafs, or if the Bruins lost that game 7, I'm sorry, to the Leafs, that Monty in the first round, Monty probably would have been canned. So yeah, it's been a big shit show just from the beginning. I don't think anyone really saw this coming, especially with, signing Lindholm, signing Zadorov, but it's been easy to be a Bruins fan, I'd say, the past, 15 years, but yeah, it's I don't want to say dark times ahead, but they got to make some moves here. They got to make some changes because Patrice Bergeron and Zdeno Chara aren't walking through that door anytime soon.
Well, Grinnell, on behalf of Leafs Nation, I'll say we don't feel bad for you at all. We really we absolutely do not feel bad for you. I want to transition the conversation to the Maple Leafs. I know you cover the NHL as well on a daily basis. The goaltending has been something, obviously, you look at in Boston. It's just been a premium the last X amount of years. So right now, I mean, Stolarz and Woll have been outstanding, this combo, and I couldn't help but think about Swayman and Allmark. Do you think they have the potential to be that next 1-2 punch in this league?
I don't think Swayman, I don't think they can be what Swayman and Allmark were. I think that was incredible for 2 years, and that's why they got the President's Trophy 2 years ago. Like that's why they've had the success that they've had. But I look at like Vegas. When Vegas made that cup run a few years ago in Aiden Hill, you know what I mean? He kind of came out of nowhere. Wasn't Logan Thompson an all-star that year?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I don't know. I could see it being more of a Vegas situation where it's like, it's not as dominant, but I do actually believe, and I hate to say this, but I do believe Stoli, the goalie, and Woll is enough to make a run this year. And I've in years past, it's always been goalie. That's where the Leafs that's their biggest deficiency. But fuck, it pains me to say it, but I think those two can do it this year.
Is that the take? Like, what is the take from Boston? I mean, we know what the Leafs' take on Boston's always been, frustration and probably a little bit of jealousy, but hatred and always getting the best from them. What's the mentality in Boston Bruins land about the Leafs in general, and then particularly about this year right now?
I think there's really two things here. And I think Leafs have this same PTSD where like anytime I talk to a Leafs fan, I'm like, hey man, like this could be the year. And they're like, no. Well, we got to wait till the playoffs and see. It's kind of the opposite with Boston where it's like, we got to wait and see if the Leafs can come beat us. But at the same time, if there was a year to do it, I think it would be this year. I mean, look where the Bruins are, look where the Leafs are. The Leafs look incredible and they don't even have Austin Matthews in the lineup. So they have the goalies, they have the coach. They have, I hate how positive I'm being about the Leafs right now, but they have everything it takes, I think, to take down Boston this year. But again, it's wait and see, because once playoffs start, it's a whole new breed.
By the way, I didn't pressure Grinnell into saying anything great about the Maple Leafs. We do appreciate his time on today's show. But yeah, I think there's a lot of positives to grab, and we have been very complimentary in the past of the Boston Bruins. I think you look specifically at the Maple Leafs. Mitch Marner, man, like this recent stretch, he's been outstanding. 7 multi-point efforts in the last 8 games. How do you view like Mitch Marner? Because I know I've heard the conversation about Hart Trophy. I don't think he's right there in like the top 5, but he's certainly making some noise right now, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think what's going to be huge for Mitch Marner this year is the Four Nations. And I say that because it's basically mid-season playoff hockey. He's going to get that taste of high intensity, that physical style play in the middle of the season, and hopefully can carry that through the stretch run of the season. But again, Mitch Marner's done this before. Mitch Marner's an incredible regular season player, but it comes down to the playoffs. I want to see what Mitch Marner can do in the playoffs. I think everyone thinks that right now. Everyone knows he's a great player. And we interviewed Nathan McKinnon, I believe, to start the year. And we've interviewed a few guys, and every one of them speaks so highly of Mitch Marner. It's only the fans that kind of rip on Mitch Marner. His teammates, former teammates, guys that play against him, like he is an elite player. And I do think he catches. I love being the Bruins fan throwing shots. Mitch Marner's an easy punching bag come playoff time. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Like he's fun to be in this Bruins Leaf rivalry, but yeah, it really comes down to what we're going to see come playoff time. What I'm doing right now is I'm texting all my buddies who are Leafs fans saying, is it time to trade Matthews? They look better without Austin. Does Mitch and Austin hate each other? I just love stirring the pot a little bit.
Yeah. Well, let's say hypothetical world, the Boston Bruins gets to take someone off the Maple Leafs and Austin Matthews off the table. Which guy do you go to add to the Boston Bruins if you had your choice?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. You know who I'm going to say that might, well, obviously William Nylander. I think William Nylander is like the best player on the Leafs. But Matthew Nyes, I love Matthew Nyes. And I think like what the Bruins need is that big physical power forward type guy who can get you 20 goals, who you're not paying 11, 12 million to. So something about Nyes I love, but yeah, I mean, I'm super curious as to what happens moving forward with Mitch Marner. I'd love to hear like what you guys are saying, because they're in such a difficult position right now where it's like you essentially have to pay this guy, because the way the season's going right now is you can't trade him. You can't trade him, and you can't lose him at the end of the season for nothing. So you might as well sign him. But then it's like, well, what are you going to sign him to? And man, like the fact that you got to imagine, like with all the shit that this kid has taken over the past, 2-3 years, you got to imagine that he's going to be willing to take a little bit of a hometown discount. Like, is that what you're hearing?
That's a pretty fucking good joke, Grinnell.
Paul Marner
taking every penny. I don't know. We've had extensive takes on this Marner thing for like 2.5 years. Rosie, you can go ahead after me. I just don't think you'd be in a good position to pay this guy right now, not knowing what the playoffs look like. Because if you get to the playoffs and it's the same thing where they lose in the first round, regardless of how many games, and it's the same Marner performance, it's the same looking team, then you're going to run it back with the same players. And I think that's my bigger issue, Rosie. It's not so much about Marner. I just think it's the ability to reimagine this team after this season is what intrigues me.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like it's running it back, which they've done. It's not worked. So that's like the definition of insanity. But Matthews isn't going anywhere. Nylander's locked up. You couldn't move Johnny T if you wanted with his contract, and it's ending here soon anyway. So like Mitch just ends up being the odd man out, like the only guy that anyone has control over not running it back again. And that's just been the huge disappointments and coming up shorts and having regular seasons that are, fantastic and just coming up short. So it's like, well, we don't have the personnel. Let's change it. That's people's mentality. And that falls on Mitch's lap. And inevitably he always has, he's a phenomenal player. That's not the conversation. It's do we commit to them again and just cross our fingers? Like that's Leafs fans have just had too much heartbreak to go through that. But I'm starting to soften on the idea that, Craig Berube was the answer. And that's what you needed to get in there, to have them playing the same way or the right way, and have Mitch stop playing this perimeter hockey and this loop and shoot, backhand sauce, no look pass, pull up at the blue line, never drive the net. That's no longer acceptable. And I think he's good enough. If he can, put on a pair of balls and play some playoff hockey, I think this problem would go away.
And don't the Leafs have a ton of cap space this offseason? And with the cap going the way it supposedly is, it's like maybe they can sign Marner and add more pieces. Like it's not, I don't think it's going to be so tight where in years past the Leafs have been so up against it just because where the cap's going. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. Yeah, I think it's the biggest example of the NHL being a business where it's like it really isn't about Marner's play. It's more about like where his, like you said, it's like Matthews is signed long-term, Nylander is signed long-term. You already have the screw up on the last Tavares contract. So it's kind of like he's just the odd man out, like you said.
I don't know if you're seeing this stateside, but I guess we're bored here in Canada because tomorrow is just Thursday. It's not Thanksgiving, but there's a lot of Crosby conversation. And we talked about this yesterday. And for some reason I put out on X, like, would you include Matthew Knies in a deal to acquire Sidney Crosby? And the amount of no's, dude, I want to quit this show.
Crazy.
I wasn't going to come do this interview today.
That is fucking crazy. I think I think Sidney Crosby is, he's still a Hart candidate. Like he is. Yeah. I thought he was one of the best players in the league last season. It's in this season too. It's like he's incredible. And just the value that guy adds both on and off the ice. I can't even fathom the fact that Maple Leafs fans wouldn't give up Matthew Knies because you get Sidney Crosby in a trade, like you're going to win the cup. It's like if the Maple Leafs got Sidney Crosby in a trade, they are winning the cup. Plain and simple.
Ooh, fuck, is that ever enticing for Leafs fans? Where do you think he'd fit in, like as far as leadership, presence in the room? Who goes out there on the power play? Who goes out there with a minute left in the game? Like it would be kind of a jumble. Like all those other big boys would have to take a step back, and the media would get all on that. And
jumble it up, baby. They need a big, nice jumble. Like that's exactly what they need. Is they need someone like Sidney Crosby to come in there and say, "Hey, like, fuck off, guys. Like we're like, let's go win a Stanley Cup here. Let's not pay attention to all the bullshit." And you just see like I think about that clip. It was kind of going viral about, I think a month ago, where I think it was Malkin missed the empty net and he's mic'd up. He's sitting on the bench and you hear like 3 or 4 seats down. You hear one of his teammates like, "Open net. Like, come on, Gino." And you see Sid skate over and he's like, "Boys, come on. Like, let's encourage him. Like, maybe next shift he gets one." And then he goes, taps Gino on the shin pads and he's like, "Hey, bud, next time you'll get it." Like that is so valuable to have that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying the Leafs don't have that kind of stuff now, but add Sidney Crosby with his leadership and the fact that he's one of the best players in the game, it would just be a no-brainer if you're a Leafs fan. I don't think that'll ever happen. I think he'd be more likely to go like Montreal for that matter, but yeah.
Oof.
We're bored. We're missing things to talk about. Our team's just so damn good right now. So, G, thank you so much for your time today. By the way, Johnny Lazarus is in the chat. He says, "What up?" By the way,
tell Johnny I said hi. Love what you guys are doing. I love the backdrops. You got the blue lights. Everything looks.
Look at
great.
Rosie, man. Look at that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I noticed that before, but yeah, thank you guys for having me on. Love the show and keep crushing it, boys.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.